What if I told you that China has discovered a way to control entire countries? Not with missiles, not with armies, but with water. Right now, China is building massive dams on rivers that millions of people in India, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Thailand depend on. With one decision, they can cause floods or droughts. This is not science fiction. It's already happening. In this video, you'll uncover how China turned rivers into weapons and why the next global conflict might not start with fire, but with a faucet. The northeastern states of India rely heavily on the Brahmaputra River, a river that originates in Tibet under Chinese control. This gives China a unique upper hand. By simply adjusting dam flows upstream, it can impact the water availability for millions in India. During monsoon seasons, this control becomes even more critical, as flood data from China is vital to prevent natural disasters in Indian regions like Assam. In 2017, amid rising military tensions at Doklam, China withheld critical hydrological data from India, data it had shared for years. The consequences were deadly. That year, Assam suffered one of the worst floods in decades, killing over 300 people and displacing hundreds of thousands. Experts believe the lack of data was a deliberate move by Beijing to apply geopolitical pressure without direct confrontation. India's response has been cautious but strategic. Recognizing the water threat, New Delhi has accelerated plans to construct its own hydropower and flood control projects along the Siang River, a major tributary of the Brahmaputra. The goal is not just energy independence, but also a buffer against sudden changes in water flow orchestrated by China. However, the challenge is immense. Engineering solutions take time, and in the meantime, China maintains the upper hand. This water weapon, silent, invisible, and deniable, gives Beijing a powerful tool of leverage over India without ever needing to mobilize a single soldier. It's a new kind of warfare, and India is racing against time to defend itself. More than 60 million people across Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and Thailand depend on the Mekong River for survival. From drinking water to agriculture, from fishing to transportation, the river is a lifeline, but that lifeline is slowly drying up. Over the past decade, China has built more than a dozen massive dams upstream, restricting the natural flow of the Mekong and creating devastating ripple effects downstream. The result? Record low water levels, dry seasons that last longer, and entire farming communities left without crops or income. In Vietnam, the Mekong Delta, often called the rice bowl of the country, is shrinking and drying. Fish populations are plummeting, salinity is creeping in from the sea, and livelihoods are disappearing. It's not just an environmental crisis, it's a humanitarian one. What's worse is that these countries have little to no control over what happens upstream. China holds the faucet, and with it the fate of millions. While downstream governments scramble to adapt, Beijing continues to build, refusing to share real-time data or coordinate dam operations in a transparent way. The result is chaos disguised as development. To the world, this might seem like an infrastructure success story, but beneath the surface, it's a carefully calculated power move. By controlling the water, China doesn't just control rivers, it controls economies, food supplies, and ultimately political decisions. The Mekong is no longer just a river, it's a tool of domination. Laos has embraced China's investments with open arms, especially in hydropower. With dreams of becoming the battery of Southeast Asia, the country has allowed China to fund, build, and operate a series of massive dams. But this ambition comes at a price. Laos is sinking deeper into debt, with much of its energy infrastructure now under Chinese control. The model is simple. China builds, operates, profits, and then hands over the dam decades later, often after the damage is done. In Cambodia, the story is eerily similar. The Sesan 2 Dam, built with heavy Chinese investment, has been one of the most controversial projects in the region. Despite warnings from environmental groups and local communities, the project moved forward, displacing thousands of people and devastating fisheries and farmland that once sustained entire villages. For many Cambodians, the promise of progress turned into a struggle for survival. Both countries find themselves caught in a web of financial and political dependency. These dam deals, often framed as economic partnerships, are in reality a form of leverage. As debt piles up, China's influence grows stronger, not just over water, but over national policy. It's a quiet conquest, built not with bullets, but with blueprints and contracts. China's use of water control isn't limited to Asia. It's part of a much larger global strategy under the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. Through this program, China finances and constructs massive infrastructure, projects including dams, in developing countries across Asia and Africa. These projects are often funded by Chinese loans, executed by Chinese companies, and secured with terms that leave recipient nations financially trapped. Take Sri Lanka, for example. After failing to repay its debt for a BRI-funded port, the country was forced to hand over control of the facility to China for 99 years. It was a strategic gain for Beijing, not just economically but militarily. And it's not an isolated case. Nations like Djibouti, Pakistan, and Kenya are now facing similar pressures. With each loan, China tightens its grip, turning infrastructure into influence. In the context of water, this strategy becomes even more potent. By financing dams in countries desperate for development, China gains long-term control over their energy supply, agriculture, and even their domestic politics. What looks like economic aid on the surface is, in reality, a geopolitical chess move, and the world is only beginning to understand the consequences. At first glance, China's dam projects promise progress, clean energy, jobs, and economics growth. Governments welcome them with hopes of modernization, but the reality on the ground often tells a very different story. In many cases, the promised benefits never fully materialize, or worse, they come at a devastating human and environmental cost. One striking example is the Sesan 2 Dam in Cambodia. It was supposed to generate massive amounts of electricity and boost the local economy. Instead, it delivered only about 13% of its expected output. Meanwhile, thousands of families were displaced, wetlands were destroyed, and fisheries, once the backbone of local food security, collapsed. Entire communities were left with nothing but empty promises and lost livelihoods. This pattern is repeated across countries that accept China's infrastructure deals. Projects are often rushed, poorly regulated, and designed more for Chinese profit than local sustainability. The long-term effects include soil erosion, agricultural decline, and social unrest. What was sold as development becomes disillusionment, and for many there's no going back. One of the most alarming aspects of China's water strategy is its refusal to play by international rules. While countries along the Mekong River formed the Mekong River Commission, MRC, to manage and share water resources, China never became a full member. Instead, it joined as a dialogue partner, meaning it can influence discussions without being bound by any agreements or obligations. To further its own interests, China established a parallel institution, the Laos and Mekong Cooperation Mechanism. Under the guise of collaboration, it allows China to fund projects, host summits, and offer aid, all while maintaining full control over upstream water flows. This has created a power imbalance where China dominates the conversation, while downstream countries are forced to adapt to whatever Beijing decides. This isn't diplomacy. It's manipulation. By refusing transparency and accountability, China has created a system where it holds all the cards and everyone else is left guessing. Water, once a symbol of life and cooperation, has become a geopolitical weapon, and no one is safe from its reach. China isn't just building dams, it's building influence, control, and silent domination. From India to Africa, entire nations are now vulnerable to decisions made far upstream. This is the new battlefield, and most of the world hasn't even noticed. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines and understand the hidden forces shaping our world, subscribe now, because in the next video, we'll expose what they don't